This audience loves venture capital.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Thank you for writing this book. Great book,
Yeah, thanks
World
for having
Eaters. You open the book talking about your experience of living in Oakland
Yeah.
when Uber moves in.
Yes.
Share that story with us and why it inspired you to write World Eaters.
Yeah, well, so I moved to the Bay Area in 2012. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Go Warriors, I think?
Yeah, I think that's good, yeah.
I moved to the Bay Area in 2012 from Chicago. I was working on the Obama campaign.
Yep.
They sent me to... What else can I throw
Yeah,
at
I know,
them?
this is good. You're doing really good.
Okay, all right. I moved there to open our technology office, and 2012 was like the peak of the internet. Those were the good old days, back when the gig economy was still the sharing economy.
Right.
The don't be evil era. And I decided to stay because it was a really exciting place to be after the campaign was over. But I wanted to live in Oakland. I preferred Oakland. It was a little bit more, let's just say, colorful than maybe San Francisco was.
Fair enough.
And we kind of had the best of both worlds over there. Like, we benefit from all the stuff that was going on with tech, but a little bit sheltered and still had, just normal people.
Yep.
And then one day, Uber announced that they were moving in across the street from my apartment building, and the community totally revolted. And I had kind of been in a little bit of like a fairy tale, like not really seeing how, the tech industry was evolving, and it turned out to be not great for a lot of people. And it occurred to me then that like their reaction, my neighbor's reaction to Uber coming to town was actually a rational reaction, and that struck me as something that had gone wrong in the economy. And, grew up in Michigan in the 80s. If a company had announced they were bringing 2,500 good jobs to downtown Detroit, there would have been parades, right? So, like, what went wrong?
Yeah.
And so I started TechEquity to answer that question and really think about how we could redirect the energy of the internet, which felt like it was going towards not the future we were promised, to better things for better people, so that as tech was growing, it was benefiting everybody. And long story short, I came to understand that there was this force that was directing the industry towards these really negative outcomes, and that force was the economic structure that surrounds the tech industry, and that's, of course, venture capital.
Okay, and I know, but there's some dumb idiot in this audience that doesn't know what venture capital even means.
Well, I didn't really know.
Right.
So actually, I kind of wrote this book for myself, so it's super accessible in that way. But essentially, so maybe some history is helpful here. Venture capital was pioneered in the middle of the 20th century to solve a real problem, which was that there wasn't enough what they call risk capital in the economy to support breakthrough technologies that were going to, not just create financial benefit, but also really like change the world in a positive way.
People investing in risky ideas.
Yeah, startups that were bringing new, the idea was new technologies to market, and it wasn't clear whether they could even be commercialized.
Right.
And traditional financial investors were not really willing to take those kinds of risks. So some civic and business leaders developed this hypothesis that if they created what they call a portfolio approach, if they pooled their money and then spread it out across a bunch of different companies instead of just going one by one, they could see these big returners that would more than make up for the failures. And that worked. And it turned out to be the best, the natural result of when you invest in high-risk startups, what happens in the portfolio. And what that's called is the power law. And that's now like the law that governs Silicon Valley.
And you talk about the power law here, and it's essentially that the driving force behind why venture capital wants risky ideas in companies.
Well, basically...
Did I just crush that?
I'm going to use...
No, I mean...
How about, can I use a sports metaphor?
Please, thank you. I've been waiting for a sports metaphor.
Well, venture capitalists like to say that what they do is hit grand slams.
Right.
It's not even a home run game, it's a grand slam game. So, if you're like, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, your strategy is every time you go out to bat or whatever, is that?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
You're doing
this
the
right?
sports metaphor is working for me.
Okay. You're trying to hit a grand slam.
Right.
And that ends up really distorting how you approach baseball. And for those of us who remember the Bash Brothers, you know, what it usually means is you end up cheating and taking drugs. And doing all these things to ensure that you get Grand Slam outcomes. It's not enough to just hit doubles and triples, even though that's a totally perfectly fine way to win a baseball game.
Yeah, why, you know, you describe it in the book, but why isn't venture capital investing in a company that hits singles and doubles?
Well, what they will tell you is you have to achieve the power law. And we don't know which of these companies in the portfolio are going to be the Grand Slams. So we force every company in the portfolio to try to be that outcome. And by forcing all of these companies, there's like 10 or 15 companies a year that really naturally have that potential. And thousands of startups get venture capital. For all of those companies that are not actually built for that kind of growth, it creates a whole bunch of harms that society ends up paying the price for.
Meaning these companies are forced to grow too fast or not create a better product for us?
Move fast and break things. Is it's basically what it is. You know, there's a sort of playbook for VCs called blitzscaling. And that's pretty much what they try to do. And, you know, I mean, I think they may be regretting naming it after a Nazi military strategy, but not exactly great branding. But, you know, you're trying to move as fast as possible to get as big as possible, take as much market share as possible, as quickly as possible, and you steamroll everything in your wake to get there.
One of the things I loved in the book was when you start talking about software and why VC loves software, because they can scale it up faster. And I am furious. Everywhere I go, I have to fill out an online form. I take my family skiing, and it's like you can't even talk to a human. It's fill this thing out. My home insurance, it's fill out all this stuff. And after I read your book, I'm going, holy shit, is that because of venture capital?
Well, I mean,
I know you don't maybe know the exact specifics of where I go skiing with my family.
I do think, I mean, it is a question. The reason I called the book World Eaters is because, you know, what really did actually work for certain types of companies that were building deep technology or software companies, where this model of moving fast, trying to get as big as possible, as quickly as possible, did actually make sense. Now you're applying it to every corner of the economy. Everything from like fast casual restaurants. Did you know Cava is VC backed? Like, why does a fast casual restaurant need venture capital, right? Everything from that to like the housing market, and housing is one of the issues I write about in the book. It is not built to scale like software.
Talk more about that. That was really fascinating and blew me away, because there's a part of me that thinks, okay, VC shouldn't be in fast casual restaurants, but I don't really give a shit about that restaurant, whatever. But housing, this is, I mean, housing is one of the fundamental purposes of our life and who we are as a people.
The cornerstone of the real economy.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, and
that's why she wrote the book, and I'm asking her questions. Why is VC in housing?
Yeah, well, they're in housing because they're trying to make a lot of money, and everything is now a financial asset, and that's what they do. But what they would tell you is, like, this is a industry that's ripe for disruption, and we need to bring this new mindset to this industry to make it work better. But what works for software does not work for brick and mortar building houses. And it definitely doesn't work for the kinds of financial vehicles that they're developing in order to, like, get more people on the ladder to homeownership, which is one of the things I write about in the book. Some of these really predatory financial models that are now juiced, you know, by VCs to exploit and extract, when there are other models that do actually help people get on the home ownership ladder that can't find the capital they need to build out those models, because they aren't, you know, they're not going to hit the Grand Slam. They'll maybe only be a triple.
So let's say you are, and you talk about and you share some of these stories in the book, and one thing that I took away from it was I was happy there are good people out there, there are good companies out there that aren't just going for these huge returns. But what do you do if you're trying to start a good business that's going to be of service to people and your community, and you need money? Do you have to work for these ghouls in VC, or can you do it differently?
I mean, you can. It is very hard. And actually, one of the stories that really brought home to me how hard it actually is is the story of OpenAI. And I interviewed Sam Altman for the book before he got fired. And he told me, OpenAI, I don't know if many people know this, is a nonprofit. The same way, a local soup kitchen is a nonprofit.
Strange.
Yeah, very strange. A $500 billion nonprofit. But he told me, he very explicitly, he set up OpenAI as a nonprofit because he did not want to be held to the same standards that a normal tech company would be held to and have to raise venture capital, because he understood very clearly how investors would manipulate the incentives around the technology. And he said this technology is too dangerous to be at the whims of investors. And even he, who was already had this great reputation in Silicon Valley, and this company was the darling, they are now rolling back their nonprofit structure and opening it up to investors, and investors run the show there now, and are in charge of the direction this technology is going to take. We were promised cures for cancer and robots that were going to fold our laundry, and we're getting sext bots for 8-year-olds and all of our jobs automated. I mean, that's true. So
so the investors start to take over the idea, and that's where everything gets all
and if Sam Altman can't do it, it's really hard for just any old entrepreneur off the street to come in and say, I'm going to do this without venture capital. So it's really like the solution set has to be more structural. And I do talk about people who are really creating the template that we can follow, but it's going to require bigger systemic change in order to make those the norm.
What are some other solutions you think we can do, or that we should be aware of or supportive of?
Yeah, well, first of all, there are some sticks, like closing the carried interest loophole. I don't know if that's too wonky for.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I won't get into it.
I mean, you talked a little bit about NDVC, which I thought was really compelling.
Yeah, and then there are carrots. So there are ways that the government can, sort of catalyze money to flow to these other types of funds, like NDVC, which is basically doing, to extend the sports metaphor, they're playing Moneyball. They're trying to make money off of all the vast majority of startups that are actually doubles and triples. There should be an opportunity there. And it's unclear why Silicon Valley isn't necessarily pursuing that. So, there are ways that the government can sort of shape financial markets so that money will flow to funds like that. And I, outline some of that in the book as well. It's
a refreshing voice in the tech world right now to read this book, because it just feels like we're all victims of what is about to happen to us. And you explain kind of how we got here. Talk a little bit about your CEO and founder of TechEquity. I don't hear tech and equity together too often. Talk a little bit about that and what that means.
Yeah, so we mean like the DEI type of equity, and not the, equity like I own a share of the company equity. That, in Silicon Valley, that's something you have to, that's a distinction you have to make. So, we're trying to bend that arc of the tech industry towards better, making sure that the industry is creating opportunity for everybody and not just sucking all the wealth up to the top. We're not making as much progress as I would like, but we see California as a place where it's really possible. Now that the federal government is no longer a place where you can really make policy for people anymore, trying to regulate AI in the backyard of where the companies are building it, and put some guardrails around this technology and the investment that's going into it. So we've had some wins. We passed a bill that makes it illegal for tech companies to use algorithms to set prices artificially high.
That's good.
This year, yes.
More work to be done.
A lot more work to be done.
Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for being here. World Eaters is available now. Catherine Bracy, everybody.